and I need you to touch me, Lord.
So we're here now with Lisa Morris, who is the president of the Sacred Heart Apostolate. Lisa, thanks for joining us. Now, Lisa, if a lot of our viewers are like me, they've never heard of the Sacred Heart Apostolate, so we would think, well, this is something that was just recently invented. But it's actually based on some visions of a nun in the 17th century. Tell me about her.
Right. Her name was St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, and in 1673, Jesus appeared to her several times, but one in particular, she was in adoration in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and he appeared to her with his heart blazing, and he said, "This is the heart that has loved men so much, but that they don't return the love that I have for them." And he showed the flames coming from his heart, and he said, "These are the flames of love that can't be contained within my heart." And he showed her the crown of thorns around his heart, and he said, my enemies put one around my head, and my friends put one around my heart when they don't love me as I love them. And so he appeared to her several more times over the course of her life, and he asked her to spread the devotion to his Sacred Heart. So when you think of the Sacred Heart, those are the three elements. There's the crown of thorns, the flames, and then the cross. That's what represents the Sacred Heart. And so he said, "I want you to be the messenger of my Sacred Heart." And he gave her promises that were associated with that, 12, one of which says, "I will bless every place where a picture of my heart is exposed and honored." So hence the enthronement. When you place a picture on the wall of his heart, he's going to bless every place where a picture of his heart is exposed and honored. And it's beautiful. And I've seen those promises come to fruition. Another one of those promises is, "I will bless every place where," I already said that one, "I will bless all their undertakings. I will be with them in all their difficulties." So there's, just promise after promise of just, the love of his Sacred Heart.
And so these are promises that Christ gave directly in a vision to St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. So we're all familiar with that Sacred Heart image. That has been taken a step further at the beginning of the 20th century by a Father Matteo, who's important to this apostolate. Tell us about him.
Right, definitely. So Father Matteo had the vision of sanctifying families through the Sacred Heart. And this developed into this public ceremony of making Jesus King of families. He ended up, he wanted to get the approval of his bishop and of the Pope. One of his requests was that he be able to meet with the Pope. He had some health issues, so his bishop had sent him on to Europe, and he was able to get a meeting with Pope Pius X to get this. He had a vision. He had gone to Paray-le-Monial, which is where St. Margaret Mary, where Jesus appeared to St. Margaret Mary. Father Matteo goes to Paray-le-Monial, is praying there. He gets the whole vision of the enthronement laid out, what it should be, what it looks like, everything, in just, like in an instant. He writes that down. He got an audience with Pope Pius X. Pope Pius X said, "Not only do I approve of this, but I command you to spend the rest of your life doing this," which is what he did until he died in the 1960s. And so that's kind of how it has progressed. This vision laid out by Father Matteo of what an enthronement looks like, of the ceremony.
And so for some time in the beginnings of the 20th century, the enthronement and the devotion had a lot of popularity, and many Catholics were familiar with it, and some of our older viewers may remember it from when they were a child. And then the ministry itself kind of waned for a time, but would you say there's been a resurgence now of this?
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk to anybody in their 70s or 80s, almost everybody that was raised Catholic would know about this. In fact, we just had Cardinal Regali, who is in our diocese, beautiful testimony from him about the power of when they did the enthronement in their family years ago. And he says he remembers it as a 7-year-old child. His story is beautiful. So it was very popular back then. And then it kind of waned, as things do. And by the power of the Holy Spirit, the grace of God, it is back full force on fire. And I think in times such as these, where families, the breakdown of the family, and I think God and Mother Mary is really involved in putting this back in the hearts of people to get back to just some of the simple basics of making Jesus king and let all the graces flow from there.
So a simple way to encourage spirituality in our families is something that was proclaimed to a saint centuries ago and which we can take advantage of now. What a blessing.
Oh,
Thank you.
for sure. Thank you.
To touch me, Lord. Touch my mind, my heart.